Now we're on the top of Chaf Amid Beis. High Michse Kishikra, high low Michse Kishikra. If the Levana was seen on the 30th day, and now we're going to be Ma'ayim on the Eidim to testify not on the 30th, but on the 31st, and everybody knows this is Sheker. Anybody could see the moon, and the moon was visible on day 30, and the Eidim are coming in on day 31. But in the case of the opposite situation, where the Eidim will testify on the 30th day, even though they didn't see the moon, that's not Michse Keshikra. People will say, they saw the moon, we didn't see it. They were in a location where they could see the appearance of the moon. Omar Shmuel, Yechilno Lekune Lekuli Gola. You know what? I could establish when Rosh Chodesh would fall out on any month of the year without any testimony. I am an expert in the astronomy and in the movement of the sun and the moon and so forth and so on. I know the movement of all the constellations. And this is a Gemara elsewhere where Shmuel was actually the world's greatest expert on astronomy. And he's saying that I don't even need Eidim to testify that they saw the moon. I can tell you exactly when the moon on any month, anywhere would be visible. Amalei Abba Avua de Rabbi Simloi. So Abba is his name. He's the father of Rabbi Simloi. He says to Shmuel, Yada Mar. He speaks to him in third person. Does my master know? Hi Milsa de Tanya Bisoda Ibur. There's a special brisa which is called Soda Ibur. And a lot of the secrets of astronomy are written in that brisa. And it says in that brisa, Nolad Kodim Chatzos, O Nolad Achar Chatzos. You know, as far as Kiddush HaChodesh is concerned, there's a difference between whether the Yereach is Nolad before Chatzos or after Chatzos. Amalei Lo. Shmuel admits he has no clue as to what this brisa of Ibur Hashana, the Soda Ibur, what it's talking about. So Abba says to Shmuel, Mida holo yadamar, ika milsi achrini lo yadamar. If this you didn't know, then I'm sure there are other things that you don't know. So don't establish yourself as the expert that knows everything. So this price of Soda Ibur, which Shmuel did not understand, we're going to see that the Gemara is going to give an explanation for that price. Kisolik Rabbi Zera, when Rabbi Zera left Bavel and made Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael, Sholach Lahu, he sent a message back to his colleagues in Bavel and taught them two dinim that he had studied and acquired understanding of in Eretz Yisrael with regard to Kiddush HaChodesh. Number one, Tzarech Shehei Laila V'Yom Min HaChodesh. If you want to be Mekadesh, let's say the 30th day of the month as Rosh Chodesh, meaning the previous month is a Chaser, you can only do so if the night going into the 30th day was Min HaChodesh, meaning you could not see the moon of last month into the night of 30th day, because that would mean that you cannot be Mekadesh the Chodesh unless the entire day could be Rosh Chodesh. And for the entire day to be Rosh Chodesh, you need the Levana Chadasha. Now you have the Levana Yeshana at night going into day 30, so you don't have the entire day of 30 as Rosh Chodesh, meaning from the Chadash, from the new Levana. He says the following. I'll read to you the Masechet. He says, Mekadshim es HaChodesh b'yom hashloshim rak im halayla shalafanav, the night going into the 30th. Again, the Kiddush HaChodesh took place by day. That's when Bezdin sat. But the night before can be considered part of the new month. And that's only possible if you could not see the levana of the old month, of the previous month. Im nira hayorech hashoshan, belel shloshim lo yikachu bazeh es hachodesh. That's din number one. And now he presents another din that he learned in Eretz Yisrael, Vizo. And I learned a brisa, which we had already encountered previously on the previous line. And he makes a difference between Kodem Chatzos or Nolad Li'acher Chatzos. And what does this mean? Right, Shmuel didn't understand that price. But apparently Rabbi Zera, in his tradition in Eretz Yisrael, he understood the price. And there's a difference between Nolad before Chatzos Hayom and Nolad after Chatzos Hayom. How so? Mechashvin es toladeto, we will calculate the molad for the new month only nolad kodem chatzos hayom. Let's say we're on day 30. So the molad, we'll explain in a minute what the molad is, but the molad has to be before chatzos on the 30th day. Otherwise, you cannot be Makadesh the 30th day as Rosh Chodesh. Why? Because if the molad was before Chatzos on the 30th day, then biyodua shenires samach l'shkias hachama, that in Eretz Yisrael, you'll be able to see the new moon before shkias hachama. Because as we said before, you need the entire day. And if the old moon could still be visible going into the night, then you cannot be Mekadosh the Chodesh. But lo nolad kodem chatzos, if the molad was after 12 noon, then biyodua shalom nires samach l'shkias hachama, you could definitely not see the new moon before you enter into day 30. And as we said before, you could only be Mekadosh day 30 if you saw the new moon, not the old moon, in the night going in. So it means that in a perfect day, there are 6 hours between Chatzos and Shkia. If the molad was 6 hours plus before Chatzos Hayom, then we would know that for sure the old moon is no longer, it doesn't appear, it's no longer visible, before Shkia, and then you can Mekadosh the 30th day. But if on the other hand, the molad was post Chatzos, after 12 noon, then it's impossible to see the new moon going into Shkia Sacham before Shkia Sacham of day 30. So the Gemara asks Lamai Nafkamina. Let's try to understand what the Gemara means by Lamai Nafkamina. Why is it necessary for us to know this? We're going to be Makadesh al pi Riyas ha'Eden. We're not going through a cheshbon and calculating when the molad is and how many hours after the molad the new moon appears. We're basing ourselves on the Edom who saw the moon. They actually saw the moon. That the point of this brisa is that on some occasions we'll be able to disprove, contradict the Edom, that's called Akasha, and we will know that they're testifying falsely. For example, if the Edom say that they saw the Levana on day 30, right before Shkia Sachama, and on this particular month, the molad was after Chatzos, after midday, then we know that these are Eidei Shek. Okay, now as an introduction to the next piece of Gemara, we'll use the English translation here. It gives a nice introduction so we know what the molad is. Now, the word in English for molad is called conjunction. What does that mean, conjunction? It's a very fancy English word. Okay. Conjunction is another word for alignment. Let me explain. Just 1 second. Oh. He says the following: the moon moves around the earth in an eastward direction, completing its cycle once a month. At one point in that cycle, the moon is aligned exactly between the earth and the sun. They will have the same longitude. That alignment is known as conjunction, otherwise known as the molad. At the time of conjunction, a new moon begins in the Jewish calendar. The moon does not give off any of its light, its own light. It reflects the sun's light. Now he goes on to explain the various parts of the Hebrew calendar month. And any time only half of the moon's surface, that which faces the sun, is illuminated, while the other side remains dark. How much of the light side is visible to observers depends on the moon's position relative to the sun and the earth. At the time of the molad, which is the alignment when the moon is between the earth and the sun, the light side of the moon faces the sun, and the dark side faces the earth. And therefore, the moon is totally invisible to anyone standing on the earth. As the moon continues its cycle and moves eastward out of alignment, a small crescent becomes visible. As the moon continues in its course, more of the lighted side becomes visible, and the more the moon moves out of this alignment, the more of the moon becomes visible. The moon has completed half of its monthly cycle. It is directly opposite the sun, right? The moon is on the other side of the earth as opposed to the sun. And then there's a full moon. You can see the entire moon. This occurs in the middle of the Jewish month. The moon then continues its cycle, begins moving closer to the sun, and as the moon progresses on its course, less and less of the moon is visible. When the moon, he has all these diagrams so you can see it. When the moon reaches again the point of alignment, it becomes totally invisible. And as the moon approaches this point of alignment of conjunction, the molad, during the latter half of the month, when the moon lies west of the sun, that's known as the old moon. But after conjunction, meaning the first half of the month, when the moon lies east of the sun, it is known as the new moon. And this moment of conjunction is known in Hebrew as the molad. Okay, obviously, this is a very complicated astronomical study. But what do we have to know? We have to know the following. Omar Rabbi Zera, Omar, I'm sorry, I skipped. Omar Mar, Tzarech Shehei Laila V'Yom Min HaChodesh. Right? Rabbi Zera said that the entire day for Kiddush HaChodesh, for Rosh Chodesh, has to be a day in which the old moon is no longer visible. Me Nolan, from whence does he derive this? And now we're going to have machlokas. What's the source for this din of Ula? Rabbi Yochanan Amar me erev ad erev. In Yom Kippur it says me erev ad erev, and that teaches us that the entire day is one entity, and the day follows the night. Reish Lakish Amar ad yom ha'echad v'esrim l'chodesh ba'erev. Okay, there's a pasuk in Parshas Bo. I'll read the English translation of the pasuk. On the 14th day of the month in the evening, you shall eat matzahs. So that the mitzvah of eating matzah is at night. And that is part of the moed of Pesach. So you see, the night is an integral part of the moed. Might be nayu. Abai says there's no nafkamina. Mashmal's darshan ikabe nayu. It's a question of how to interpret the psukim. Rava amar chatzos laila ikabe nayu. Meaning, what happens if the old moon can be seen into the night, but before chatzos? Because according to Reish Lakish, we're deriving it from the mitzvah of matzah. And the mitzvah of matzah goes up till chatzos, right? The chiyuv to eat matzah on the night of Pesach begins with nightfall and ends with chatzos. From then, the balance of Pesach, there's no mitzvah of eating matzah. Again, you're not allowed to eat chametz, but you don't have a mitzvah of eating matzah. So if we have the drush of Rabbi Yochanan, may erev ad erev, then in this case where you could still see the old moon before chatzos, there's no possibility of being mekadosh the chodesh because it's not me'erev ad erev. But with regard to Pesach, where we have a halacha that you could eat the matzah up until chatzos, and the rest of the of Pesach there's no obligation to eat matzah. It's therefore when you interpret this pasuk, and it says in the pasuk, or erev tochlu matzahs, it means with regard to the balance of chametz, erev tochlu matzahs means don't eat chametz. Right? It can't be referring to the beginning of the first night because that's when there is a chiyuv of eating matzah. So when it says in the pasuk that ad yoma echav v'esrim l'chodesh till the end of Pesach, you eat matzah, what it means is from chatzos of the first night until the 21st day of the month, you will abstain from eating chametz. So therefore, the beginning of the first night is really a continuation of the previous day, so to speak. It's attached to the 14th, whereas the period of time which is indicated here, Ba'erev, begins with chatzos, taking you all the way to the 21st day. Amar Rav Zera, Amar Rav Nachman, Kol Sveiko Lekamei Shadinon. Shadinon Lekamei means we push it forward. Lememra Techamisar V'Shitzar Avdinon. But our bisar lo avdinon. What that means is that with regard to Nisan and Tishrei, the yontif of Pesach, the yontif of Sukkot, is we observe the yontif on the 15th and the 16th, but never on the 14th. Meaning, even if you have a suffix as to whether or not the previous month was a chas or a mole, you will never observe neither Pesach nor Sukkot on the 14th of the month. So the Gemara asks, Vili aber nami ar bisar. I have a logical, compelling reason that we should, in the case of Suffolk, we should include the 14th and be makpid on Isa Malacha, etc. on the 14th. Why? Dilma chisuri li av, chisuri li el. Let's say that both Av and El, 2 consecutive months, were chaser. In that case, Yontif is going to fall out on the 14th. Again, it's all relative. So he explains this in the following way. He says, it is possible that our count of El is wrong, for we assume that Av was Mole, when in fact Av was Chaser. That's called Dilma Chisureli Av. So therefore, what we call the 29th of El is really the 30th of El. And this could happen 2 times in a row if Chasru Li El. So the 14th day from our counting of when the 30th day is, because we're calling it the 30th day, but it's really the 29th day, is the 14th day, therefore, could actually be Sukkot. If Bezdin declared 2 consecutive months of El and of Av and Elul as Chaserim, as 29 days. Gemara says here on the top of Chaf Aleph, Trei Yarche Chasire Kola Isle. If there would be such a very rare occasion in which Bezdin would declare 2 consecutive months as chaser, there would be a kol. A kol means the word would get out. It would become public knowledge. It's like, it's like putting it on the internet, or on Facebook, whatever your social media is, and everybody knows about it. We don't have to worry about that suffix situation. And in that case, where Bezdin was Makadesh 2 months consecutively as chaser, we'll know about it. And what we believe is the 14th, which is really the 15th, will be Noeg Yontif on that day. So this leads us to Levi Ikla Lebavel, and that's where we're going to stop for today on the top of Daf Chaf Aleph. And Amir Hashem, B'li Neder, I will record tomorrow Shabbos Shir of Chaf Aleph and upload. Let me take this opportunity to wish you a merry Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much.